and our guest today, Jen Fontanilla. And I'm going to tell you a little bit more about Jen right before I introduce myself a little bit more. So, Jen is a former financial advisor and now a certified money coach. She's a speaker, a best selling author who just published her sixth book, Do Before I Do. And over the last 15 years, she's worked with organizations such as the Walt Disney Company, Warner Brothers, Target, Goodwill, and the US Air Force, and has appeared on radio and TV programs, podcasts, and blogs, sharing her money management expertise and knowledge. Jen loves working with emerging entrepreneurial women and helps them to master their money and mindset so that they can create lasting and transformational change that empowers them to gain clarity, hope, and confidence to create an incredible financial future. Welcome, Jen.
Thank you, Cyndilu. So wonderful to be here with you.
It is awesome to have you here. And in case anyone has never met me before, my name is Cyndilu, and I'm the founder of beBOLDyou, the creator of the beBOLDyou personality expression system, where you get to figure out who in the heck you've been all your life, who you are right now, and who you want to become and who you want to move into, which I know that that is one of your heart's desires too, that people become their more authentic self. And that was one of the reasons I really wanted to connect with you. And being your authentic self around finances is kind of like almost for some people a dichotomy, right? Like they don't want to go there. They don't want to think about it. They don't want to like even focus on their mindset. So could you just give us one little tidbit now? And then I'm going to go into a section that is us getting to know you a little bit more. But before you answer that question, I just want to let the folks that are watching live here on either Facebook or YouTube know that this is a live recording of the beBOLDyou podcast. So we won't be doing a lot of interactions with you during the show, but after the show, we will do a Q&A. If you want to hang around for that, that would be great. All right, Jen. So where does that struggle come in with people becoming their authentic self and their finances?
I think a lot of it stems from guilt and shame and unforgiveness, where we think about our past mistakes. We think about the poor choices that we've made with money. And then we get so focused on today and the situation that we find ourselves in. And it makes people feel like, oh, I don't want to talk about this, or I feel ashamed. And that's very natural and it's very common. But in order for us to create change in our situation that we're in, we have to be mindful. We have to create awareness in order for us to build a plan, know what the next step is in order to take action. But, I encourage a lot of people when they're going through this situation to like have some grace, have some forgiveness. And it's these topics that we don't typically talk about when we're dealing with money, because sometimes we just get so focused on, oh, the numbers and numbers. But yes, it's something that people struggle with. But I want to encourage you all that it's okay. Have some grace and compassion upon yourself and understand that all these things can be fixable.
Yeah, and not everyone has the same money mindset as far as what's happened to them in their past, right?
Exactly.
And I don't think that we even always know exactly where those ideas came from, or that we even have them.
Yeah, you're right. And that's
So
exactly that happens sometimes because we're not taught to think about those things.
yeah, we don't even understand that. I have a phone call coming in at the same time, so I'm kind of like distracted in my brain. I'm just going to take 2 seconds and answer that phone call. Talk to the people for a second there, girl.
Sure, definitely. So we're talking about, oh, I didn't think about this. Where does this come from? And that's something that I work with clients on, where we take a look at what we call your money story or your money bio, however you want to phrase it. And basically what it is, it's a journey where you journal down everything that you can recall that you've dealt with in regards to money, starting from the earliest recollection. So for me, when I went through this process, it started at age 4. For some people, it might be age 2. It could be as simple as I remember my mom giving me $1, and she told me I could buy whatever I wanted. And so when we went to the grocery store, I ended up buying a piece of gum, or I bought a toy with it, something from those little vending machine things. And when you do that, what ends up happening is you look at these patterns, or we identify these patterns, and you start to see, oh, this is what I kept seeing coming up that I learned from my mother, or, oh, this is what I see from my dad. This is what I learned from him. Or sometimes it might be things that are self-actualized, meaning it didn't really come from either one. It's something that you went through yourself, and those are some lessons that you inherited. And these things become part of your subconscious. And then they become part of the behaviors that you are creating and you're doing, and then they affect your present day financial decisions. And so a lot of times, like I was just saying, we don't think about these things because nobody teaches about money. So let alone thinking about the subconscious patterns related to money. These are things that we have to be brought to awareness. This is stuff that we have to be taught to do. And so when we do that, then we start to realize, oh, there's these patterns. And then when you start to see these patterns, then you can take the actions and the steps to move towards, what can I do to change this, to move towards better financial decisions?
That is amazing. And it's so true in finances, in relationships, in day-to-day like habits. There's so much stuff that subconsciously, unconsciously we're doing. Like it's subconscious, so it's unconscious to us. We're unaware that these patterns have been put into our lives. So I can't wait to talk about that a little bit more with you as we go along. But we do have these 10 questions that I do need to start with. And
Sure.
you know what? That phone call was so funny because I actually didn't end up talking to them, but I realized I put do not disturb on my computer, but I forgot to put do not disturb on my phone. Note to self, when going live, do not disturb everywhere, not just on the computer. Alrighty. So I have these 10 questions that I ask all my guests just to kind of get to know you a little bit better and to help us, you know, connect with you, right? So, what is your favorite color? Some of them are so simple.
Oh my gosh, I never can answer this question. I think is I love all colors. I love neutral colors. But if I had to really, really narrow it down, I like things in the blue range. Yeah. So it could be aqua,
That's
it could
good.
be royal
I used
blue.
to tell them it was, I used to say rainbow because I was like, no, you can't nail me down to a color.
I like that. That's a great answer, rainbow. Yeah, including gold and glitter and metallics.
Right. A metallic gold glittering rainbow. I love it. I want it.
Exactly.
Alrighty. Do you consider yourself more introverted or extroverted?
Neither. I am actually in the middle, and it's called an ambivert.
Me too. Me too. And how many people, when you tell them that, they say, there's no such thing? And you're like, maybe not. But if I don't have enough alone time and enough people time, then I get drained. Like I need both.
Yeah, it's like both, and it's like I want to have it when I want it.
Okay, what energizes you?
When I am feeling that I'm in total alignment and congruent with my purpose and passion, I just want to wake up. I'm ready. My brain is already going, and I'm like, I wake up and I go do it. And so for me, that's what energizes me, when I know there's something exciting that I'm going to work on, that I can just pour all my talents, efforts, and energy into. That's what does it for me.
I love that.
Thank
I'm
you.
an achiever, so I love that, right? What
Absolutely.
is the most exotic place you've ever visited?
I would say it was Playa del Carmen in Mexico. Yeah. It's south of Cancun, and
Ooh.
it was interesting. I was there for an incentive trip, and we got to go through the jungle. We went through this thing called the cenote, where it's a freshwater cave. I mean, it was so cool. We did all these excursions, and then I was there with other business leaders and stuff. So it was, and along with all the mosquitoes and whatever knows what bit us, but it was absolutely fun. And just being in the jungle was quite an experience.
That sounds very exotic and very amazing.
Yes.
Okay, one of the ones here that some people find more difficult is what is the phrase or quote that encourages you the most?
Done is better than perfect. And I love
Oh, I
that
love
because
that.
sometimes
Done
we
is
get
better than
caught.
perfect.
Yeah, we get caught up in wanting to. And I'm a recovering perfectionist, so I get it. I totally get it. And this is why I have to embrace this phrase because we get caught up in like, no, it's not yet, not yet. Oh. And then I have to just, no. If we don't move forward, we're never going to move forward. We're never going to take the next step. We got to move on. We got to move on. And so I had to really embrace that. And I encourage people to embrace that phrase because that's how you're going to make progress. So done is better than perfect.
I was one of those perfectionists. Um, I have to tell this little story just because I have to keep reminding myself, right? So I became the manager of a small engine parts distributorship. And one of the things that we did was we got invoices in and we paid them out. And then when we paid them out, there was a piece of paper, right? And one of the jobs for one of my employees was to match up the paper of the receipt that we paid out with the invoice and staple them together.
Mm-hmm.
I cannot believe to this day that I actually did this. So she stapled them together like this, a little bit crooked.
Oh, that drove me nuts.
And I literally had her go back and unstaple them all and put them straight and restaple them. These things are going to be filed in a box, probably never looked at again, ever at the end of the year. Why would I waste any time of somebody else's energy to do that? But that's how crazy of a perfectionist I was. Like, and it was done, like the job was done. It didn't need to be redone again, did it? But no, I totally made her do it again. And I actually saw her in the store like 3 years later when I finally understood what I was doing. And I stopped her and I said, I'm so sorry that I
Wow.
made you do that. I'm sure you thought I was the biggest bee because I was
What did
like,
she
that
say?
was crazy.
What did she say back to you?
She she's just like, yeah, I did. She totally owned that she did
Yeah.
because I
Fully
was
in
like,
agreement.
oh my gosh. So done is better than perfect. Just get it done and keep moving. And now I have get her done services and do it now sessions. Like if you want something and you want to do it now, then let's do it, right? Like, yeah, so
Yes.
funny. Ah, my heart.
Oh my
So what
gosh.
has been your favorite age? What's been your favorite age?
I would say my mid 20s. I would say it was my mid 20s. And it was just a time where I was super ambitious. Not that I'm not now, but super ambitious, really coming into my own where I was realizing the whole world of entrepreneurship, the whole world of self-improvement. I started reading these books and now I want to say it's more commonplace. So this is like 15 years ago. Now it seems more commonplace where we see, oh, read these books and Tony Robbins and this and Gary Vee. It's like so much more common now. Plus we have social media and the internet. But back then it wasn't what it obviously it wasn't what it is today. And so I just look back and realizing that moment in time when you come to this epiphany and you just want to dive into all this self-development improvement in these books and all this information out there. And it was just a really exciting time, the start of the whole journey.
I have to tell you, it's commonplace to us now. But to others that are listening out there, they've never heard of it. They don't know what personal development is at all. I mean, there's still
You're right.
millions of people who have no clue, but once you get into that circle and once you're in there, it's that automobile, right? You buy a purple automobile and then everybody's got one, right? And they were there before but
Yeah.
you didn't see them. So it's, we're just in that world now and it is commonplace for us. And I couldn't imagine going through a week without listening to something that was personal development. Like
Oh,
there's just no way.
exactly. I completely agree with you. Yes.
So based on that, what book are you reading now?
Oh my gosh. Okay, so there's the book I'm reading now is called To Sell is Human. And oh my goodness, what's the name of the author? Pink. And It's just interesting. And the other one is The One Thing by Gary Keller. And it's so I'm part of a book club with my team on the financial wealth side, and so we're diving in these books together. And it's like I feel like I'm in school again, where I'm like, oh, I better read the book, or I'm not going to be able to participate in the questions. And so just really interesting talking about how I'm sure you've encountered this, Cyndilu, where people have felt and thought, even if you are the salesperson yourself, oh, it's slimy, I don't want to be that used car salesman. But if you shift your perspective and how you're approaching sales, we are all doing it in some form or fashion. So that's the book I'm reading right now, To Sell is Human.
To Sell is Human. I missed the title of that one, and I'm going to put that on here. I put all three of these books up here so that To Sell is Human. This is on the recording, so people can grab them if they want. I'm writing book, just writing book after it. There we go. To Sell is Human. So there we go. 3 books. To Sell is Human. Oh no, 2 books, I guess. To Sell
Yeah.
is Human, and then The One Thing.
Yes.
2 books. Yep. I got to Sell is Human once. I tell you, I told you I might be doing too much by trying to like do all
You
these
are
fun
doing
little things
great.
that BeLive has,
You're doing amazing.
but it is kind of really cool to be able to do that. So The One Thing is another book. So I'm going to write book and put that up there. All right. So these 2 books, and I have read The One Thing. I have read The One Thing, and it really helped me. I still don't do one thing, but I now do one thing at a time. I
Yeah.
don't try to like think of the other 10 things that I have going on.
Yep.
So,
Absolutely.
To Sell is Human, and who is that one by again?
Oh my goodness, I can't remember the name of Pink is in it. I can't remember. I think that's his last
Okay,
name.
we'll look it up later
Yeah.
and pop it up on there. So, yeah. All right. So the next question on my 10 is, do you create to live or live to create?
Create to live. Absolutely.
I don't think it matters for me. I do both. Name the
Yeah.
person who has had the most influence on your life, whether they are dead or alive.
Oh, this is loaded. You know,
Indeed.
dead, I would say Jesus. Jesus, always, thinking of an example to refer back, and when especially when I had to come back to foundational things, when I start to lose my way, when I start to derail and I start to focus on the wrong thing, which is so funny. We just talked about The One Thing. I think about, okay, how do I go back to basics? How do I go back to my foundational roots and my faith? How do I get grounded again? So he would be the one I would say, plus, we're believers, but I'm not just saying that for brownie points, really, I would say him. And, in the more recent years, there was a mentor I had who I used to work in his office. His name is Michael P. Thomas. And he was really also one of those people who spearheaded it for me to start diving into these books and learning, like NLP, neuro linguistic programming, sales, everything. Like, just, it was such an amazing journey that I was exposed to a lot of things because of him. And so I would say it was those two who had a huge, huge influence. Yeah.
That is really awesome. And what one word describes you best?
Resilient. Resilient. I feel
Oh,
like
I
I've been
love it.
through so
It's a
much,
great.
but yes, but learning how to come back from it, learning that every time you fall down, like, you've been there before. It's like muscle memory. You know what it feels like to fail. You know what it, and you no longer look at it like, this sucks. Like, I mean, you do, but you don't stay there. And because you've bounced back, because you recovered, you can do it again. So that would be my one word.
Yeah, it's such an important word. I'm living in a little of that right now in my life, but it's all good. It's all good. It's all good. I just keep telling myself
Yeah,
it's all good, and this too shall pass, and all those fun
exactly.
things, right?
Oh,
And
yes,
those phrases really do help us. Yeah.
they do.
All right. So I have a couple of questions more to get to know you a little bit more, and they come from reading through your introduction that you gave me. And so here's a question based on your writing. So what caused you to want to shift from an advisor, because you were a financial advisor, to now
Mhm.
speaking and authoring?
Yes. So when I was an advisor, I had been doing that for about a decade. And what I was seeing was when people came to me for help, a lot of times they wanted to do the investing. And I say this often, I get it. Investing's like sexy. Oh, I have a portfolio, or I'm investing. It just sounds like more fun, right? Okay, let's do that. But what ended up happening was I saw that people were trying to get to level 5, if we look at the investing at the top level of like what they're trying to achieve when it comes to the overall financial planning. And then I would take a look at, okay, there's no budget, they've never done one. There's overspending in different categories of their budget. There's a lot of debt. And so what it was starting to look like was things were going backwards, and either something would fall apart in the budget, and then they would end up ultimately saying, I can't invest anymore on a monthly basis, can we put that on hold? So it was like you're trying to build the house backwards. You're trying to put the roof first, then you're trying to slide the ground floor. It doesn't work that way. And then I also started realizing there is a psychology to money that we often in our industry, especially in the financial advising world, we don't ever talk about it. Maybe it's improving a little bit more. I think behavioral science is now entering it more and more, but especially back then, there was no talk of the psychology part of it, the emotions that come with the money. There was an author that my office at the time was following, and he's also a advisor to advisors, and his name is Nick Murray. And so that was my first introduction to behavioral science in regards to money, but it wasn't talked about. And so I realized that I didn't want it. Plus, another side note, compliance was getting crazy. It was just like so much red tape. I was just sick of it. So I was like, you know what? Let's go to coaching. How do I still stay in the industry, still implement, the knowledge and strategies? Because I really believe that when you can take care of your wealth, your money, your mindset, like everything else, it's not the most important thing, but let's be real. You can buy better food. You can get into shape. You're not restricted, like, I can't afford it. You're not restricted by, like, well, I don't have the money. And so when you can get the money right, then all the other things can find its way into alignment, into you creating the life that you want to live. There's no more, I can't do it because the money's not there. So, that's how I ended up deciding, like, you know what, I want to help people on a day-to-day basis where they're learning the mindset that needs to come with. They're learning the management, the day-to-day, not what's happening 20, 30 years from now, although that's important. But it all starts by going back and creating that sound financial mind and understanding, like, how do I manage this now and develop the good habits so that I make the right financial decisions, so that everything's building upon itself in the right order, in the right way.
Yeah, I experienced that. But then I do want to add, not but then, and I'm eliminating but from my vocabulary.
Vocabulary.
I am going to do this. Eventually, you will not have but in my vocabulary unless I am talking about the but of God. That is the only but we ought to be looking at, is God's but. Okay, so so teaching to do the budgeting and investing, right?
Mm-hmm.
Budgeting in investing as part of your budget. Because when I was working on first paying off debt, I thought I had to pay off all my debt before I could invest.
Mm.
And you can actually do them simultaneously. And so while it may not help your cash flow to be investing at the same time, because that investment's for later, you become richer in your portfolio, which most people don't even maybe not know what a portfolio is, but that's a financial thing that, this is what you own, and it's your assets and your liabilities and all that. So you can actually increase your portfolio while paying off debt by increasing just a little bit of your interest, investing a little bit of your money. Would that be true?
It's in some
I
cases.
found it true for me. So
Yeah, I would say in most cases, some cases, I'm sorry, I use this phrase a lot. It depends, because everybody's situation is different. It is also going to depend on what you're investing in. because sometimes I think people will easily say like, oh yeah, I'm doing my 401k, or I'm doing this, or whatever the financial vehicle that you're investing into. You'll say, oh, I have this. But what I found very common is that even though you may be doing that, people oftentimes don't know what's going on. And I would hear this like, well, I signed up for this and I don't know, I just put money into it. And I'm just like, oh my goodness, you need to know what's going on. You need to know why you're even doing it. How long does it take for you to see some return, or what should you expect? What are the rules? A lot of people don't understand the rules. And when I'm talking about the rules, meaning, is there taxes? Are there taxes? When is it going to be taxed? When do you have access? Are you going to have fees? Are you going to have penalties? And so many people don't know. And so if you don't know and you don't take an assessment of where you're at, where your money's at, how can you make any improvements? And I think that's one of the biggest challenges that most people have, is that they don't understand what's going on with their money. They just feel that, or know that they're putting some aside. And I want to encourage you, if you're listening to this, I commend you for doing something, but you got to take it a step further. It's not good enough to just say, I'm doing something. It's better than nothing. No, because sometimes that can actually hurt you, because if you're in the wrong thing that doesn't serve the purpose for what you ultimately want it for. And often there's people who just like, well, my brother's cousin said to well, that would be your cousin too. My brother's neighbor said I should invest in this, or I should be doing this. And it's like, that doesn't mean it's right for you. That doesn't mean that just because you saw some tip or some thing online, it doesn't necessarily mean it's right for you. So you really need to be diligent about understanding where you're putting your money, what is the purpose, and the rules like I just described. So depending on whatever the answers are to that will give you a better idea. And this is where you might need to get somebody's help. This is where you're going to get a better idea if you are doing the right thing, and if it makes sense for you to continue or to divert those funds that you're putting into it in another area.
Totally makes sense, and why I'm not a financial advisor at all. So listen to Jen, don't listen to me. So, what is it about being a speaker and an author that you love?
I was thinking about this question several weeks ago, and I realized it stems from my childhood. So I grew up as a dancer, and a competitive one. So I realized that, because I was asking the same question, like, why do I love it? Because there's people who can't stand speaking. They're deathly afraid of it. They like, oh, I would never do that, right? Because they say next to death, like speaking on stage is like the next biggest fear most people have. And I never felt that. I get this rush from it. And I realize it stems from when I was a young kid. I started dancing when I was 4, and I would be in competitions, and I would just get this rush, like, oh, this is great. And don't think I don't get nervous. That's the thing that's so funny about it. Like, even right before I'm going to go, I'm like, I feel the heartbeat, my nerves are like, I'm shaking, and I'm just like, I think it's kind of the same idea. Like, some of you like love roller coasters. You're extremists. You love that thrill, but you still get nervous, but you're just going to go on that roller coaster anyway. I'm not that person, but I am like that when it comes to speaking and going on the stage. I'll still get nervous, but it's like, I know that once I'm in the first 3 seconds, I'm like so at home. I'm like, I just own it. And I'm just like thinking about like, whatever it is that I'm talking to, if I can pour into somebody, inspire them to take action, or empower them to just take the next step to make progress in their life, then I'm not concerned about any fear or nervousness that I have, because I look forward to the, oh my goodness, can I just affect somebody's life? One person that could hear this and have that reaction, then I'm just like, okay, cool. So that's what gets me excited, and that's why I love it.
Yeah, I'm the same. No, I didn't mute myself. I'm just making sure I didn't mute myself in between. I'm the same, right? When I realized how many people I could touch through writing a book and how many people that I can touch by speaking, it was like, okay, the message is important enough to get out there that you can be boldly yourself, that you have the total control to be yourself, and you get to choose I was like, this message has to get out.
Mm, yes.
So based on what I just said about, you just being able to like be yourself, how has the shift been for you as far as the books, writing the books and all of that in terms of who you are at the core? Like, did it change? Like, when you became an author, let me just like go there, right? When you became an author, did you find that something shifted in your spirit, in your core?
I would say if I had to pinpoint something, one, you do as an author, you gain this credibility. It's kind of interesting. It's like it doesn't matter all the other titles or positions you hold. One thing I did notice is that when people introduced you, it was like, oh, she's an author. And it was so interesting to see, like, oh, is that what seems to be the most important thing from another person's perspective? So that was one thing that I observed that was quite interesting. The other thing that I would say is it really, I love the title, Be Bold You, of this show. And when you're an author, you have this journey as you're writing your story. And you realize at some point as you're typing or writing out the story and the outline and whatnot, you're thinking about, ooh, there's always these points where you're like, do I want to share that? Do I want to talk about that? Ooh, is that too much? And then you have to ask yourself, like, am I ready? Because you got to be real. Like, this is going to get published. And there are some things that I do talk about where it's like, oh, am I ready to go there? And there was a point in time where I just had to pray about it. I'm like, you know what? Like, screw it. I'm going to write about it. And then I'll just deal with it. And I'm kind of like that. I'm not fire. I'm fire ready aim. I'll just do it and then I'll figure it out as I'm falling. And so I said, let me just say it. And then I'll just deal with the consequences later. But it really taught me to just push the limit, push that edge and be like, you know what? It's scary to say this. It's scary to be vulnerable. It's scary to put this stuff out there. And not necessarily your dirty laundry. Some of it is just like, some things I messed up. I'm very transparent in the last book about these are the mistakes I made financially. Like, I'm not speaking ever to anybody like, hey, I know it all. I'm perfect. No, let me tell you why I can tell you about this, because I messed it up myself. I can empathize with you. But anybody that works with me knows they don't feel judgment, because that's another fear. I've seen people like, well, if I show you the numbers, and I'm not saying they necessarily literally say this, but I can feel it. They're saying like, well, if I show you the numbers, are you going to judge me because of my mistakes? I'm like, are you kidding me? If you read my book, you're going to see what I did. And so becoming an author and being vulnerable enough to share those things, it humanizes me. It humanizes me like, hey, I get it. Don't worry. Like, I've been there. I've messed this up. But it doesn't, I share that with you so that you know that I can understand where you're coming from. I can empathize and I have compassion for you because I've been there. Life happens to us. We're here on planet Earth. We're human. But this is why I'm so big about having grace and compassion and forgiveness, not only towards each other, but towards ourselves, especially because we hold ourselves at this like, oh, I messed up. Oh, I'm so stupid. I can't believe I did that. And I'm telling you, again, it's not always about the numbers. When we can understand our mindset and the words we're using, in the Bible, it talks about life and death are in the power of the tongue. And we have to be very careful of the words that we are saying when we're dealing with our money. Absolutely. Sometimes we don't realize that, but it is so powerful for you to understand what is it you're saying to yourself, especially when you're dealing with your money. So, being an author, it forced me. Well, I chose to be forced into being vulnerable and very open about things in my own life.
Oh my gosh, you have said so much about like the whole author journey, right? Like,
Mhm.
I mean, yeah, as you said, as wonderful as it is to be an author, you're now like, okay, so now you've exposed yourself to more people that are going to judge you, right? And to think that you're not going to be judged is crazy. We are, right? But to not do something just because we're going to be judged is worse, right?
Yes.
So
Yes.
we have to step into the message that we've been given to bring to this planet. We just have to do it and get over ourselves and write that darn book. So now this episode is sponsored by the Becoming Bold You book, which is a guide to the beBOLDyou personality expression system. And you can get that by going to www beBOLDyou.com/BBY book. So I don't have that in this fancy little thing where I can pop it up on the screen, but I'm going to. Um, do that for the next show. So, for those who don't know what this is at all and they wonder, like, what's a personality expression system? Like, what's a system, right? Why do you need a whole system? Well, because we are human beings and human beings are created with systems in our bodies, right? We have a circulatory system, we have a skeletal system. We are systems. There is not one piece to your physical body, so neither is there one piece to your emotional, your spiritual, and your mental body, right? Our personalities, our personas. So we get to choose who we become in this world. We get to choose who we show up as. That might be an easier thing for people to understand. Who we show up as in this world. That's up to us. So this book will help you with that. I'm writing the workbook right now, which will be out the end of November, beginning of December. And then we're going to be doing a course in January. So if you want to hear more about that, put BBY book in the comments down below this video or with this podcast, and or send me a message. If you're listening to the podcast and you want to get this and you want to connect with me before that, go on over to Facebook and find me over there. Go for facebook.com/beBOLDyou, and it will come up, and Cyndilu will be there. That's my face. So Cyndilu and beBOLDyou are pretty much synonymous now. If you look up beBOLDyou online, all as one word, you're going to find my face. So I've become synonymous with beBOLDyou, which is hilarious. Anyway, that's the commercial. Got to do the commercial because, you know, the podcast is one thing, but you're going to hear this one show of a podcast, but you might need a little bit more. You might want to dig a little bit deeper. And Jen's got books too, and we'll list those in the description of the podcast when it launches, and I'll add them into the description on Facebook so that you can find those books also, because you just might need to go a little deeper and you might not quite be ready to catch up with either of us in person. But hey, get the books. They're there, and they're there for you. We wrote them for you. We didn't write them just for ourselves. We wrote them a little bit for ourselves because we needed to get the message out and we needed to like get it out of our heads so we could be free to keep going.
Yes.
What do you think of that? Because sometimes that message will get in your head, right? And you're like, you can't go anywhere until you write it down and get it out.
Oh, yes.
That's
And
the thing with being.
I just wanted to add too, talking about the author's journey. I don't know if this is how you felt. Once you're at that home stretch, you're just like, you do get to a point where you're like, I can't wait till this is done. I'm already ready to move on with my life because it really is consuming. And so when you just pour so much of yourself into it for that finite amount of time when you're doing it, and then you're just done. You're like, I'm ready, I'm done. Like, please just go and I can move on to the next project. So yeah, it's
and we're in NaNoWriMo right now for those writers who are doing NaNoWriMo who might be listening to this podcast or this episode here. Go for it, write it, do it. I was going to do it this year, but I think I'm going to pass on it after all, just because I'm writing the workbook and I got a lot happening. So I was like, but one of these years, I'm actually going to write a novel during NaNoWriMo. You don't have to write a novel. You can write whatever. But I have a novel idea based on my life and my daughter's life, and I really want to just like write this novel out. I have to get her permission first, I suppose. So moving back to the content. So let me look here. When I introduced you, there's things like Walt Disney, Warner Brothers, Target, Goodwill, U.S. Air Force. Like, these are some pretty impressive brand names. How did you get connected with those?
It really is the network that you build. And so something that I got really good at in the beginning of, even before I got into this industry, was learning how to develop relationships and leveraging that, and always coming from a servant's heart. How can I help other people? It's not just you taking, and always in the back of your mind, if somebody does help you, how can you give back? It may not even be right then and there. And it's just paid off over the years where I've developed relationships. I've paid attention. I listen to what other people are doing. I'm very invested into the relationships of the people that are in my life, especially from a business perspective. And you know how it is, Cyndilu, like the people that you do business with are in your network, they become your friends and they are your friends. And you do have your other friends who are so not business entrepreneurs, and you still love them. But there is a different network when you are working with the people that are in that same space. You said that we're just kind of in that bubble together. And so over the years, I developed that. And so what ends up happening is, somebody will call me up, and because this is where you have to be really diligent about your messaging. Are you clear on your messaging? Is it clear what you're talking about? Is it clear what you're trying to deliver? Because the better and the clearer you can be in doing that, then people in your network will understand, like, oh, she does this or he does that, and you need somebody that does that. Oh, I can think of this person. And when we're not clear, and then the people in your network aren't going to be clear. So then you can't expect them to pitch you or refer you. And so that's how it's happened. These people were, oh, do you want to work with this? Or I have this opportunity, or I brought your name up. And so it really comes down to, who are the people in your life? Who are these people that you're, investing into the relationship and understanding and having this develop over time, and always giving back, finding a way to give back and serve without the expectation of getting anything back. There's this law of reciprocity. And so you have to, be very mindful of it and honor it. And so it's not this selfish thing. And so just over the years, that's what's worked for me.
Yeah. I've been told I give too much. I'm too much of a giver. Is it possible to be too much of a giver? Is that actually really possible?
Yes, because I've been told that too. So I get it. I think it is possible. And I think this is where it's very important for us, especially as women, because we're natural nurturers. Especially if you're a mom, you just know what it's like to give so much to your kids. And I think it's very important for us to understand where our boundaries are, because we can give too much. And it's a fine line. There's a balance. And I think how for me, I'll say personally, how do I know when I've crossed that line? When I start to look at my energy, when I start to see that, am I not focusing on what I'm supposed to be taking care of? Am I neglecting my meditation, prayer time? Am I not spending the right amount of time in the right order, with God, then my family, then my work? If I'm not doing things in the right order, you can see that. You can just easily step back and look at your schedule. And if you're doing things in the wrong order, I mean, that's the order that I believe. And if I'm not doing it and something's sacrificed and something's not, taken care of, I start to feel that imbalance. And then I start to realize, like, okay, well, where is my time going? And so something that I'm very, very attuned to right now in my life is, what do I need to say no to? Because if I keep saying yes to the wrong things, I'm really saying no to myself. So it is possible to keep giving too much. And it's difficult because some of us are just natural givers, and we want to help and we want to give and we want to do all these amazing things. But you do have to take a step back and start to analyze, like, okay, what's giving, what's being sacrificed? Is it my rest? Is it my sleep? Is it my sanity? Am I not taking care of certain things? And then you have to pull back. You have to start seeing, where do you start saying yes to yourself?
Whew. Well, yeah. and getting to the point where it's okay to put yourself first can
Yes.
take some adjustment. If you've been a giver and you've always done the giving and not allowed yourself to receive. And when I say that, allowing yourself to come first means that you're willing to receive rest. You're willing to receive peace. You're willing to receive time for yourself, right? It's not about receiving more money necessarily, or, gifts. It's really about gifting yourself with energy, gifting yourself with peacefulness, gifting yourself with time to just be.
Absolutely. I love that you said that at the end. And I think it's also important for all of us to realize, this is not you being selfish. You can't give if there's nothing in the cup to pour out of anymore. So you have to come back to taking care of you, because the more you do that, the more that you can continue to show up for the people in your life, for your projects, for your work, whatever it is that you're trying to achieve and go after. Because once that battery is dead, once that cup is all completely poured out, like there's nothing left to give. And sometimes, you know, I've experienced getting really sick. I've experienced having like a breakdown, and you don't want to get to that point. And so it's always good to pay attention to your body, your feeling, your energy. And always remember, this is not about you and being selfish. This is about you saying yes to you so you can keep showing up for other people.
Pay attention to you. I have to put that on there because, you know, when we think of finances, we often think of paying our bills. So one of the things you're going to pay this month is pay attention to you. I just thought I'd throw that
I
on
love
there,
that.
you
That is
know, because
very creative. I love it.
we do not pay attention to ourselves enough. And I know as a carer, and I know there's a few people that listen to the show that are carers, and you know, we tend to attract who we are. My husband has Parkinson's, so I'm caring for him 24/7. So even when I'm on here, I'm thinking about what is he doing, what is he, whatever. And I have to take times where I go away and I spend time just with me. And when I don't do that, that's when I get overtired, that's when I get sick. That's when I start snapping back. So I am working on paying attention to myself just a little bit more and knowing that when I start snapping, I instantly know I have not gotten enough sleep. I have not had enough off time. I need a little bit of space. And I snap out of the snap, right? And take care of the husband. And then I say, I'm going to go take a break. And I will go in the bedroom and lay down with my phone and just listen to some music and
Mm.
rest. And I can come back out of the bedroom in 15 minutes and I'm okay, right? But if I don't take that 15 minutes, then I just keep snap, snap, snap. And that does not help either of us.
No.
So pay attention to yourselves. Okay. All right. So we have like 10 minutes left of the show. We go about an hour. And I'm just starting this kind of like recap at the end, the beBOLDyou recap of financial whatever we're talking about today, mindset today. That's what we're talking about. So we're talking about mindset, but we're not just talking about financial mindset. We're really talking about whole being, whole body mindset in addition to your finances. And your finances play a part in that. They're a part of who you are. Again, a part of who we are is our financial life, but a part of who we are is also paying attention to ourselves, right? A part of who we are is the author, right? A part of who we are is the carer. A part of who we are is the daughter. We are made up of so many different pieces and parts. And to think that we can only be one and that we have to be one all the time is cray cray. So let go of that thought. Okay. So I wrote down about 6 different points that I thought were really great for kind of a recap. I'm going to go into those now. I'm going to pop them up on the screen. And I just want you to respond with kind of one little sentence that you can, or 1 or 2 little thoughts that you can give people so
Sure.
that we have a nice tight little thing. We're going to take this and probably put it over on some other place.
Awesome.
Yay, here we go. Whoa. Okay, here we go. There's psychology to money. Doesn't all show, but it's there.
Oh, there it is.
Psychology to money. Oh, there it's coming.
Oh, it's scrolling.
There's a psychology to money. Yeah, it's scrolling. Ooh.
Yes, I will
So
say
tell us about the psychology to money.
absolutely. I would say that when it comes to money, don't just think it's only about the numbers. There's so much more to it. The psychology side of it is so much more important. And that has to do with your mindset, and pay attention to your relationship with money. What are the words that you're saying? Are they negative or are they positive? Oh, I hate these bills. Or like, are you looking at like, you know what? I'm grateful because this paid for lights. This paid for my tuition. This paid for taxes, whatever it is. You pay attention to the way that you're speaking to money, the way that you're using your words with it. So psychology is the foundational groundwork when it comes to dealing with your money.
And emotions around money.
Is that the second point?
Yeah.
Emotions, yes. That's such a great segue from the last one, because emotions are going to be telling. They're going to tell you like, okay, I'm not reacting to this positively, or I'm reacting, I have this stirring. And I want you to pay attention to, dig deep. If you have this negative reaction or positive reaction, ask yourself, well, why? Why do I feel that way? Because if you can become mindful of that, if it's a positive emotion, figure out, why do you feel good about it? Because that's what you want to create more of into your life. You want to bring more of that into your life. So when you can pay attention to whether it's a positive or negative emotion, it will help you eliminate what to get rid of or do less of. And then on the positive emotions, it'll allow you to realize, like, I need to do more of this. It could be as simple as like, you know what? I feel good when I buy a candle, or I buy myself some flowers. It just makes me feel good. Those are things that are okay to do, that you want to do more of. Number
And
three.
then going on from those, both of those, right? Mindset, the words that we speak around money.
Oh, yes. Words are so important. They're so huge. You know, are you somebody that says things like, well, money doesn't grow on trees. Well, you should just be grateful that you have a job. Well, you know, rich people are greedy. Those kinds of phrases you need to pay attention to. Are you saying things like that? Or do you have positive words where you say, you know, money comes to me easily? And do you believe it? So it's really good for you to start paying attention. And I gave you some examples this time. What kind of words and phrases are you saying? Because the things that you say are the things that you're going to attract. So start becoming mindful of the words that you're having come out of your mouth, as well as the relationship that you have with your money.
And building relationship with a servant heart. So I want to talk a little, some shifting, like relationship with money is one thing, but money comes from people, right? And so if we don't build the relationships with people, then we're not going to increase our money.
Absolutely. And that's what's so important about having a servant's heart. And what do we mean by that? Are you doing things with a purpose and intent to give and serve and help people genuinely from a position of like, hey, I really want to help you. I really want to pour into you, mentor you, whatever. And we're not going to get into whether that's paid or free, because there's a time and place for both of those. But if you're doing it from a selfish perspective, you want to check that. But this is where I would say a lot of the opportunities that have come into my life started from, because I'm always thinking about, how can I help this other person? What if I say yes to this, is this going to help them? You know, how can I show up for other people? And it's like that whole pay it forward idea, that whole philosophy about paying it forward. It does come back, and it may not necessarily be from that other person per se, but it does come back. And so just understand that, start looking into the law of reciprocity, and how when you give so much from your heart, your message, your mission, your purpose, your passion, how much of that will come back. I promise you. And so going into the next one,
so investing, investing in the people that you meet, right?
Absolutely. Yes. And here's the thing, really get to know them. You know, I like to find out, like, you know, like you think about the questions that Cyndilu asked in the beginning. She asked me my favorite color. You know, what's the phrase that I pick? You know, go into those questions. It doesn't always have to be like, well, what do you do? Find out, you know, what's something that somebody went through as a child. You know, what's their favorite place to visit? Really get to know a person from in your, and this is the thing, I will say this. A lot of times people think like, well, business is business and personal is personal. I don't agree with that. I really think that when you do business the right way, it becomes personal. And that's what's going to make you stand out. When you can make business personal and you really invest in knowing the people that you meet, it changes the whole dynamic. It changes your relationship. It changes the whole game. And that's what's going to advance you. That's how people are going to remember that you actually care. So really invest in getting to know the people on a personal level. And I think people need to start getting rid of that whole idea that business is completely separate from personal.
That is great. And I have one last one, which is kind of almost a bonus for everybody, because this is going to touch on the personal and the money piece of it.
Oh, yes.
If we're not clear on our messaging, on what we're trying to say to people and what we're trying to portray to people, oh my gosh, go Jen, go.
Yes, please really take the time to step back especially if you're in business, step back, because so many of us dive into this idea, oh, I want to start this thing, or I love doing this, but then you're all over the place. I think it's important. One of the things I'm actually helping people with right now in a different business I have is like help people get really clear on their messaging. Who is your ideal client? What is your purpose? What is your passion? But how are you showing up and how are you conveying it so that it's super clear? Think about some of the people you might have met, especially at a networking event back in the day when you used to be able to see people in real life. And they're talking, and then you walk away after 10 minutes and you're just like, I still don't know what they do. Don't be that person. And so I want to encourage you, get clear on your messaging, get clear on who you want to serve, get clear on how you're using certain words to convey that, and get really, really focused so that if you're clear, the people that you're talking to will also be clear. And then that's how it's going to be easy for people to understand, oh, I know what she does. So I find if somebody that could use your services, then it's very easy and clear that it goes to you. But when that's not happening, it's usually that the messaging is not clear. So become focused on getting clear.
Whoop, push the wrong button.
That's okay. We're back.
Uh, we're back. And we have come to like the end of the show. Thank you so much for being with me today. I knew when I saw you on Cassandra's show, I was like, I want to have Jen on because so many things that you say are in such alignment with what I believe and beBOLDyou and what it's all about. And learning to live our life out loud is such a needed thing right now because so many people have been silenced for way too long. And with social media, with podcasting, with YouTube streaming, everyone has the potential to have their own voice, to be able to open your voice and say what you need to say. Will the whole world hear you? No, but one person may hear you, and their lives going to be completely changed and radically turned around. So tell your story, get out there and share your message. It must be done. Let me take that off the screen and say thank you, Jen. Do you have any last minute anything you want to say to the podcast listeners before I let them go?
Just want to say thank you so much for allowing me to spend this time with you. It's been so enriching and such a great experience. And just want to second what you said about being bold, be vulnerable, and put your faith before your fear, to go out there. And if you're being you, if you're being your bold, authentic you can't go wrong. Is everybody going to want to do business with you? Is everyone going to like and fall in love with you? No. But that's okay, because the ones that do are the ones you want to work with and be around anyway. So always remember that we're not trying to be all things to all people, just the right people.
And if you looked out your door and you saw 1 billion people there, there's more people than that on the planet. And you literally looked out your door and there were 1 billion people standing outside your door. Exactly how would you feel? Overwhelmed. Yeah, I would if I had that many people, right? You're not meant to reach everyone. So stop trying to worry about it. Okay, so to my podcast listeners, thank you so much for being here again this week. Remember to always live your life out loud and be bold you. Okay, so we're still on the air on Facebook. And YouTube just for a few minutes. I just wanted to give opportunity if people had any questions. I don't know if the commenting stopped or if people didn't comment. I'm just going to pop over there onto Facebook and see if I can find anything. Make sure we're not missing any questions or anything, and then we will go off the air. And I will cut this short. I wonder, can I? I don't think so. Okay, so testing, always learning, live online learning. It's good for you. And I don't mind doing it for you and getting to know it all. Nope, we just have the two at the beginning, and they said, good to catch it live and hello. So, yes, hello to you ladies. And it was awesome to have you live for part of it, Nancy. Miss Nancy, and I'm sure you'll come back and watch the rest of this. Blessings, peace. Thank you again, Jen, and we will say goodbye.